Good afternoon or good morning, everyone, depending on where you're tuning in from. Welcome to our virtual road trip. I'm Molly Berry with ATS, and it's my pleasure to welcome you on board today as we visit Chaitbhat of the Asphalt Institute, Kevin McGlumphy of the Association of Modified Asphalt Producers, and Richard Willis of the National Asphalt Pavement Association. They're going to discuss some of the major topics that are calling for attention in our industry right now and share how their organizations work to educate, communicate with, and advocate for their members. So, as a reminder, you're in listen only mode, but if you would like to address our panel audibly, just raise your hand and I'll unmute you and you can join the conversation. You can also type a question into the question box or the Q&A box at any time. So our co-pilots today are Chaitbhat, Kevin McGlumphy, Richard Willis, and Tanya Nash, who you can see over on the right-hand side of your screen. So we'll start with Kevin here. Kevin McGlumphy is the Director of Research and Development at Associated Asphalt and also the President of the Association of Modified Asphalt Producers, also known as AMAP. He has over 20 years of experience in the asphalt industry, serving in a variety of capacities. Kevin earned his bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Ohio Northern University and his master's degree from West Virginia University. Richard Willis is the Vice President for Engineering, Research, and Technology at the National Asphalt Pavement Association, otherwise known as NAPA. He serves on many national committees and represents the asphalt industry in numerous asphalt forums. He earned his bachelor's degree in physical science from the Freed-Hardeman University and his bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Auburn University, where he also earned his master's and PhD. Chaitbhat is a sustainability engineer at the Asphalt Institute, AI, and he provides technical and organizational support for AI's member companies regarding sustainability goals and initiatives. He earned his PhD in civil and environmental engineering from Michigan Technological University and is a certified life cycle assessment practitioner by the American Center for Life Cycle Assessment. Tanya Nash is our Director of Engineering here at ATS. She earned her bachelor's and master's degrees from the University of Florida in biomedical engineering. Tanya serves on many state and national committees and research projects, expanding her knowledge in asphalt properties and characteristics nationwide. So I believe that's all the housekeeping notes. You got a brief introduction of our panelists. So Tanya, I think we're ready to depart. Enjoy your trip, everyone.
All right, thank you, Molly. First of all, I want to thank the three of you for joining us in this very critical conversation. And I just want to bring together the three big major players as far as the organization that represent the asphalt paving industry. We're going to kick this off by allowing each of you to discuss your organization and just give us a little bit of background on what you guys do, who you represent, and how you feel like you represent them best. I'm just going to go around the horn, and Richard, we're going to start with you. Once Richard is done, Chait, if you want to pick up after that, and then Kevin, you can pick up after Chait.
All right. Well, Tanya, thank you. And Molly, thank you very much for allowing us to be here and be a part of this conversation today. As said, I'm Richard Willis, and I'm with the National Asphalt Pavement Association. For those of you who aren't that familiar with NAPA, we are the trade organization in Washington, D.C. that represents the asphalt mix producers. Those are our primary members. We have categories that are called producer members, and they pay by tons of mix that they produce over the course of the year. But we also have associate members, and those associate members may be material manufacturers, additive suppliers, equipment manufacturers, consultants, but those people that really support the asphalt paving and producing industry. And our goal is to work with organizations like Federal Highway Administration, Federal Aviation Administration, and Congress to be the voice of the asphalt industry in DC. We're in the process of going through a new strategic plan, but if you look at our old strategic plan, there were really 7 different areas where we focused. And I want to kind of boil those down to the 3 words that we commonly used, and that was we support the industry, we make sure that they have what they need to run their businesses and to help them make sure they're producing the best asphalt mixtures that they can. We advocate for the industry, which means whether it is on a piece of legislation or new rulemakings, which may be happening at groups like Federal Highway Administration, or even at with OSHA or other groups looking at health and safety factors or environmental issues for the industry. we want to make sure that we work with those groups and advocate for where industry stands and what we can do at a federal level. We really do focus at the DC level instead of on a state or even more local level. And then finally, we want to advance the industry. And that is, I commonly say one of my goals of my job is by the time he leaves office, I want Secretary Buttigieg to stop saying that we've been paving the same way for the last 100 years, because there's been a lot of advancements and there's a lot of things that we can be doing that's different moving forward. And so we want to see those opportunities to make pavements more durable, help us in terms of life cycle costs or life cycle assessment, which is that environmental impact, and really look at where we're going and help kind of pave that way. When you look at NAPA, we have about 600 individual companies that are looking at, that are members of us. And when you look at the branches beyond that, it more than doubles that number. NAPA has been really successful in many ways. One of the things that I will say is that we're proud of is we have a 97.6% retention rate, which among associations is pretty high, especially with that number of members. And so we really are trying to focus on providing our members what they need, representing what they need, what they're hoping for. And one of the cruxes that we have is whether it's through marketing, whether it is through legislative efforts or advocacy, we do try to let the science lead wherever it takes us. And that may lead to more questions, or that may lead to things that we need to look at on how we run our businesses or how we operate a little bit differently. But we do try to ensure that whatever we're doing is based on the best research and science that's available, and use that to help guide our paths to be good partners with our customers, and whether that's agencies, private market, or the like. So that's the quick and dirty 5-minute tour of NAPA. We have about 20 staff. Those people who are on also work for the Asphalt Pavement Alliance are on NAPA staff as well. That's happened in the last couple of years. And we do have a newly reinvigorated board of directors. It used to be our executive committee, but now that has become our board of directors, which kind of has the fiduciary responsibility for our organization and helps set priorities. And we now have set up regional councils, which really are kind of that bridge between the board and our technical committees or other committees to help make sure that they're prioritizing the right efforts and leading the way.
All right, thank you very much, Richard. Jay, introduce the Asphalt Institute.
Thank you, Tanya, and thank you, Molly, for arranging this particular webinar. So as most of you might be familiar, Asphalt Institute, founded in 1919, so more than 100-year-old organization representing 90% of liquid asphalt producers in North America. So our members range from liquid asphalt producers who are particularly refiners to the terminal owners where asphalt is stored, and then the additive manufacturers as well as the modifiers which go into the asphalt binder. Talking about the various departments that we have within Asphalt Institute, the first and foremost, we have an engineering department. So our regional engineers are spread across North America. And if depending on which location you are in, you might be familiar with the services that our regional engineers provide through education and various training and certification courses. We also have a laboratory headed by Dr. Mike Anderson. If you are working in the asphalt field, you would have definitely cited one of his papers or know his name by now. So he's leading our laboratory services, which offer various testing services for our members as well as for some outside folks as well. So in total, we have 129 members and we have 3 member meetings, yearly member meetings, where we communicate with our members about the happenings in coordination with NAPA, because NAPA provides us with that lobbying part and the strategic part, and also what's happening at various state DOT levels and federal highway level. So education is provided and feedback is received from our members at each of the member meetings, which helps us to shape our research as well as communication. We also have a marketing department which communicates the various products that our members make. And so if you want more details on any of these departments, feel free to reach out. Tanya has my contact and I can direct you to relevant members. That's a short introduction about AI. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And last but not least, Kevin, would you introduce AMAP?
Will do. Thank you, Tanya and Molly, for having us. I am going to lean on you to tell me whether I share my screen correctly or not, Tanya, because I do have a presentation. It's about 7 slides long. Is that showing up correctly? All right. Because in general, we are the youngest association that's represented here. Association of Modified Asphalt Producers. A lot of our membership are also members of NAPA or AI or both. I actually work for Associated Asphalt and we're members of both plus AMAP. So real quick, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but our mission statement as a modified asphalt producers group is really to advocate for industry, no different than what AI and NAPA does. And we focus on performance and economic benefits. And I highlighted that in blue because I think what we're talking about today really ties both of those together. And I think you'll learn that more as we go through the conversation. We want to be a consolidated voice for modified asphalts, not necessarily just asphalts in general, but specific portions of the asphalt business and roofing applications as well as paving applications. And we're looking for ways to make things, asphalt binders, perform better, longer term, more economic, more environmentally feasible, things of that nature. And we want to do that not only in the binder phase, but we want to add value to the mixture side of things, whether it be in shingles and or roofing products or in highway paving and highway products. We were founded on the premises that we want to make asphalt properties and asphalt performance better. Our members are from the list of things highlighted in blue there, or places highlighted in blue. And really, we want to educate and be a place where people can go to get information. We are a association that is basically made up of volunteer members who are on our board. We do have an executive director and a management company that oversee us. Ali Mastardo is our executive director. And what we try to do is utilize our vast footprint of members to bring quality information to our agencies that we support and our members. Big objectives would be to collect, disseminate, and promote. We're not a huge research corporation or association. We really lean on NAPA and some roofing associations and AI to do most of the research. But we want to disseminate, compile, and promote what good comes out of that research effort. So education and training, and just enhance the credibility of the entire industry, because there's a lot of misconceptions about asphalt and refining and other things out there. And then try to be a place where people can innovate and improve the industry within meetings. Committee structure set up like this, and I'm not going to go through all this, but I think the big one for this is over here. Our advisory board is kind of new to us, and really what we're trying to do is get agency feedback from folks like NAPA and AI and their members, and then also roofing feedback on things that we should be working on or looking at. And environmental sustainability is one of the big ones there is overlapping of all those. This is just another bullet point slide, but performance and economic benefit. We want to improve performance and longevity and evaluate and establish unbiased policy for corrected use of the products that are in the industry. Too much of anything is sometimes not good, and not enough of some things is not good either. And we want to be the voice of reason to balance anything that modifies asphalt so that you're using our agencies and customers are using things correctly in the right dosages to provide performance. And then the last slide, I think we'll hold questions till later, but it's got contact information for the organization. So if you want to go back and click on the website and dig around, you can. And really all I got. And I'll turn it back over if I can figure out how to unshare.
All right,
should
thank
do
you,
it.
Kevin. Thank you, the three of you, for joining us. And it sounds like for the most part, you guys cover every aspect of our industry, asphalt related, including not just paving, right? So I mean, yes, NAPA is their shareholder, is the contractors and the producers, but they also have associate members as well to try and help information flow. Asphalt Institute, you guys are considered, the liquid guys, right? But it's not just asphalt liquid, it's the big oil companies, and then all the way from the crude oil to the finished products going through. And same thing, AMAP, Kevin, that group is really representative of all and any type of modifier that goes into these portions of the industry, whether it goes from a polymer producer of any kind, even to the chemical companies, all the way to straight mix modifiers. So I guess my first question to you guys would be to start off to say, with all these facets that you guys have under you in your organizations, how do you decide to divide your attention or the organizational resources in order to appropriately address some of these things that are coming through the pipeline? Because it can't always be a single topic that affects everybody across the board. I am sure there's individual topics that affect people. And I will invite you guys to chime in, or I can address you individually and make you guys talk.
I'll go ahead and start. So, I mean, it's a really interesting question, and that's something that we have to deal with on a everyday basis. Because when you look at NAPA, we cover a lot of different things. Like I said, there are 7 different facets of our current strategic plan, and we're looking at maybe rearranging or changing that a little bit moving forward. But it ranged from everything from industry promotion and making sure we're securing market share from a research, marketing, deployment kind of standpoint in strategic area 1, to advancing in quality and innovation in strategic area 2. 3 is really legislative, 4 is regulatory, 5 was workforce development, and then you have the other association things in area 6, which are like your meetings and member engagement and that kind of stuff, and your comms and communications. So one of the things that we've been trying to do is really understand and communicate how things work together through the different parts of an organization, because the reality is, like I said, we try to let a lot of the science kind of lead the way, and it then informs how we move our legislative agenda, or how we move our marketing and deploy these different types of materials. And so our board of directors really does a lot of that kind of helping in terms of prioritization. Our regional, new advisory councils kind of help set up, yes, these are the things that we really need to be focusing on. And we've recently, or when Audrey took over as president and the CEO, we implemented kind of a 3-year strategic plan, so that we knew for 3 years, this is kind of really what we were looking at and what we were trying to ensure. Because if every year you're chasing a new squirrel, it makes for a really inefficient time, and it's also hard to staff to make sure you've got the right people to help lead you through certain efforts. And so sometimes movements kind of help shape where you're going. Sometimes it's legislative or policy efforts kind of shape where you need to be taking your organization. But ultimately, it's looking at how do we ensure that the industry is prepared to compete for their customers, and how do we ensure that, whether it's through life cycle cost, performance, they have the tools that they need, the specs are, we partner with organizations to help make sure the specs are in place, or policy and legislation don't tip the favor in terms of one industry. Like one of our common things on a legislative agenda was just no like pavement type selection mandates. And it's because we just want to be able to compete. And we think when we can, asphalt's got some great advantages and it can do some great things for our customers. And we want to make sure that there's kind of that level playing field for everybody in it.
Thank you. Trite or Kevin?
Yeah, I think Richard covered most of the organizational aspects of it. From a technical standpoint, if I have to dig down as to, so now Asphalt Institute, for example, we have two separate entities, like Asphalt Institute is one, and there is Asphalt Institute Foundation. Now, as Richard mentioned, so reacting to specs and like say projecting some of the scenarios that might be for the future. So the strategic vision, some of the research there is conducted through Asphalt Institute Foundation. And we recently had START Symposium in May, and some of you were there. So it's kind of sharing ideas of, okay, right now, for example, in the environmental sustainability arena, we are seeing environmental product declarations or EPDs. Now, 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, what might we see? And will that progress be cumulative and things like that? So depending on the direction of the wind in which some of these legislations go, as well as building on the science itself, as Richard pointed out, the actions kind of, the priorities kind of change based on that. And we are on a mission to kind of, so as I said, we have our regional engineers. So we, one of the main goals that we are trying at Asphalt Institute is to educate the engineering community about these various innovative topics of environmental sustainability, because at the end of the day, we want the domain experts to participate in the environmental sustainability discussions, because sustainability as a whole encompasses performance as well. So for ATS, if you ask me, oh, we are doing testing, does it come under sustainability? Of course, yes. Because if you don't consider longevity, then we are leaving the main part out of sustainability. So our aim here is to educate both our members, get feedback from our members, as well as the broader community about these various innovative topics. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think from AMAP's perspective, we probably lean more on our membership feedback, the advisory committees that we're on that org chart, to stay in tune with what our membership wants and what the DOTs are focused on from a modifier perspective. We also lean heavily on NAPA and AI. We've got a lot of joint members. So a lot of the things we talk about in our committee meetings are hot topics at NAPA or AI. And we're really more of a support function to the industry and to NAPA and AI than we are kind of a trailblazer, I would say. And we do that same thing on the roofing side too, but this is more of a paving audience, so I'm going to kind of stick with that. But we're here to support the industry, and we mine information from our members, which are DOTs, roofing companies, and paving suppliers.
Okay. And Kevin, as we continue on the topics, I'm going to stay with you and then kind of go backwards through the group. You know, there's so many topics we could choose from, and we could probably sit here all day on any single one of them. But overall, what would you say is the biggest strength of how to get your members involved? Because realistically, none of these organizations would be here without those members and their needs and their participation, because that's where all that information starts coming in. So what would you say is the biggest hurdle and or strength that you have in order to get that membership really involved in participating?
I think from AMAP's perspective, our biggest hurdle is probably the fact that we're all volunteers, and we've all got day jobs, right? So the fact of the matter is we got to be very careful on how much we bite off, because when we take something on, we want to be able to finish it. To get members or to get participation, what we've tried to do is ensure that we're working on things that have overarching benefit to our member companies. And if we do that, we found that companies will allow their employees to volunteer for something that's for the greater good and not just a sales pitch for, say, one individual or one product. So it's a delicate balance for us, which is really why we're dependent on AI and NAPA to kind of set the stage for what the industry needs. And then where we use our membership's abilities to support that. And for example, on the sustainability front, we've got a lot of chemical companies that are members that have been around a long time that have been dealing with environmental issues much like this for a longer period of time than maybe us as an industry in the paving space has with EPDs and PCRs and LCCAs and things like that. So we've got a lot of tacit knowledge in that arena from other perspectives in the chemical industry within our group. So that's just one example.
Okay. Richard, how about yourself?
I mean, I think the best way, I look at the old saying, many hands make light work. And I think that that's really what we have to do is we take that mentality of the more people we have pulling in this space, the easier the lift is going to be, but also the less necessarily, or we can share the load. Because while we do have a bigger staff than some of the other associations, like I said, we've got around 20-21 people depending on the day, and we still cover a lot of space in terms of where we go, and so we also rely very heavily on our committees, and we have 4 different technical committees in just my one strategic area that are focused on prioritizing research and getting best practices written. But even things like we've got our AAPTP program right now, which is a cooperative agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration. That's $9.5 million at the moment to manage a program that's really trying to advance FAA specifications and practices. And I couldn't do that without member support and them being willing to sit on panels and help write RFPs and review proposals. But the great thing is, like Kevin was saying, when you show the members the value in participating, and show those companies really the benefits that they can have by being a part of these conversations and being part of these efforts, that's when you see them giving up their time and helping move things forward, because it not only helps their companies, but it moves the industry forward as well. And it really is that volunteer leadership spirit that makes some of these organizations kind of move forward. We wouldn't be here without their help, and I know my job would be a lot harder and not nearly as fun without people like Tanya being the vice chair of our engineering council and other participants helping in these spaces.
I'm going to actually throw you a curveball. So
Okay, sure.
we're gonna kind of broach it a little bit, and you can, and I would ask that you kind of incorporate your answer that you're about to give you in this topic. You know, we with the most recent events of our Inflation Reduction Act being signed and put into law, I would say that, you know, sustainability is certainly on the forefront of everybody's mind at the moment in this industry. What are we doing? How do we do this? What is going on? I would say from a LCA practitioner, right? First of all, I've never heard that was an actual thing, and I'm super impressed by that. And so that term sustainability, right? There are some people out there that throw that term around because it's the term. From your opinion, can you kind of describe sustainability and then how Asphalt Institute approaches it from what they represent for their members?
Thank you for that question, Tanya. So combining both for your both questions, so Asphalt Institute. So I started with Asphalt Institute last November. So I'm pretty young, like 10 months old into Asphalt Institute. So the first thing that our president, Pete Grass, and Mark Buncher, our director of engineering, told me is we are a bottom-up organization. So first thing that you need to do, even though you may be a LCCP or PhD or anything, is to listen to them. So we started with your question about Inflation Reduction Act, one of the main things that you see in the Inflation Reduction Act is $250 million for environmental product declarations, EPDs, which is a more tactical because it's a requirement right now. So what we did in that particular direction is we started educating members on why this EPD is gaining momentum and why is it required for them to participate. So for example, we first started out through a magazine article. Asphalt Institute has a magazine and we communicated what sustainability is. So we adhere to the definition that Federal Highway Administration has, which is 4 pillars for sustainability. Performance mainly being the first one, and then the triple bottom line of environmental, economic, and social needs. So meeting those goals. So when we started that communication, that's when the members started coming to us and saying that, okay, we already know how the performance aspect kind of fits into the picture, because most of them thought, okay, sustainability is an alien thing to us. So it might be a new concept. However, in the next meeting, what we did is we invited speakers from Federal Highways who were being part of these bike lane formulations in various states and guiding them. And also I had a presentation where we explained them the process itself of doing EPDs. And that was recorded. So if you are a member, please log into our website. You have a recording there for what this EPD is and how it affects you. Then we sent out a volunteer list because we now have a task force, just members only. And it's like a 40-member task force. So even though it's a lot, and Richard will know this because NAPA has already done the EPD task force. So typically there'll be a PCR, like a product category rule committee formation as a first step, in which there'll be external stakeholders and plus the members. However, due to the bottom-up dialogue that Pete had given me, what we did is we first need to have a member-only EPD task force, listen to our members, what their needs are, and then have a consensus around that, and then include the external stakeholders, of course. So just an example of what we are doing around sustainability. So we also have a sustainability task force under Asphalt Institute Foundation, which is of strategic nature. So as you can see, NAPA came out with a road forward to net zero, which is a strategic goal. And our upstream, some of the refiners and other stakeholders have their own net zero goals. So where do we fit in that strategic space is what our sustainability task force is defining. So there's a lot happening at the moment, and we will inform you as things roll out.
Awesome. And then I'm going to kind of roll backwards, Richard. So there's a lot of terms out there, and I know that NAPA has initiated the Road Forward as one of their big initiatives currently. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how this kind of fits into this whole scheme?
Yeah, so the Road Forward, I think we officially rolled out the program in January at our annual meeting in Scottsdale. The work started well before then, because like Chait was previously saying, we wanted this to be a member-driven program. It wasn't something that was really a NAPA-led initiative. It was something that the members came to the conclusion was needed for the good of the industry, for the companies. And we had seen the direction that a lot of companies were going. We had seen kind of the Paris Accords. We had seen even things like just the up-and-coming workforce. Sustainability and emissions are something, and what you're doing for the planet is something that's really important for them. And we needed to make sure that we present a working space that meets those needs and is considerate of where we're going. And so we started working with a group of about 21 people called the Climate Stewardship Task Force, which include producer members and associate member representatives, a couple of our state asphalt pavement associations, and a couple of academics, and really developed over the course of about 9 months. And I think in my presentation, it was like over 500 man hours of time went into this. And a lot of it was education, a lot of it was strategic decisions, but looking at how do we move this forward, and not just move it forward in a way that's marketing rah, 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 but has some some substance behind it. And so while we have a nice shiny brochure that has our mission and our vision being sustainable communities and commerce connected by net zero carbon emission asphalt pavements, and wanting to make sure that we're engaging, educating, and empowering the U.S. asphalt community to produce and construct net zero asphalt, our carbon emission asphalt pavements. Each goal, and whether that's on the different types of emissions, had specific tactics and things that we needed to look at doing as an industry, not just tactics. Something that's not in the brochure are specific activities on how we actually achieve those, how we do those tactics. And each activity has a metric associated with what success looks like, which our members can see if they ask me. It's not something we're out there broadcasting, but it's what is basically my team's strategic work plan for the next 27 years. And understanding how we look at responding to things like the Inflation Reduction Act. And a lot of it has still been, while we've been working in the sustainability space since 2013, 2014, it's still a lot of education, because, hey, most asphalt companies don't have a sustainability person or someone that was trained in that. I commonly tell people I have no formal education in sustainability whatsoever. It is all done by reading, sitting and talking to people, learning that way. And what we find is that that's where what we have to do right now is show people the possibility of where we're going and trying to take the scary out of it and show them that, yeah, this is doable and it's actually good for your company too. And so the Road Forward while it was a program that NAPA kind of rolled out, it is something that we invite the entire asphalt industry to be a part of. And we want groups like AI and AMAP and PPRA and some of the other people to realize that there is space for them as a part of this. And we haven't necessarily defined what that space even looks like for them. We know that there are opportunities for the modified asphalt producers to help us with things like durability, and improve the quality of our mixtures so that they last longer. We know that there are places for groups like the Asphalt Institute to look at things like the refining processes and the production of asphalt binder, and there are technologies and ways to reduce your emissions there. And I'm not naive enough to think I know the best practices for those. So I'm just saying our goal is to have a net zero material supply chain, and we hope that you will partner with us with that goal. And so that is our biggest thing, is this is a complete and utter partnership that we're hoping the entire industry can be moving forward, where it's not just NAPA's Road Forward, it is literally the road forward for the asphalt industry. And we think we've developed something that everyone can get behind, because ultimately it's about creating the most environmentally friendly, lowest economic life cycle cost, most socially acceptable asphalt pavement for our consumers.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of give a little bit of a shout out to your webinars that are going towards that road forward. They've been very educational, very helpful, understanding what is what's coming down the road, but not so even so much, oh, well, this bill is going to affect us, but how, what do we need to do? What are the steps to take? And so they've been very helpful moving forward. One thing, that I hear about a lot is with these EPDs, we are an industry full of acronyms and we love them to death, and we seem to throw them out pretty freely. So the EPD has been a very prevalent one recently. And I know that I've heard a couple of grumblings about, well, if we do this, then, our products are very proprietary. What are we going to do? Are we giving our secrets away? Kevin, do you feel like AMAP, from being in a space where, majority of the modifiers business is all proprietary, would you say that is one of the functions to help keep that a safe space for that kind of conversation, be able to kind of talk those things through and help get the information properly?
Yeah, I think it's one of the big benefits in the structure of AMAP, where we do have a lot of suppliers to the asphalt bitumen liquid arena that do have specialty technologies that they provide. And as in any business, you want to protect your intellectual property. So providing data that needs to be used to generate these documents can be sensitive at times. And I think Asphalt Institute and others have had similar conversations about how do we get this information without jeopardizing our members' intellectual property. And I think the big picture thing with being a member of an association like AMAP is that because we're run by a management company, and because we have the ability to hire consultants that we can then sign non-disclosure agreements and arrangements with, where they are the only people that see the data. None of the members see the data until it's compiled and generated and released. I do think that is something that all of the associations on this phone have a benefit with, especially us, because there is a lot of proprietary information that our members have. So we're looking at this as an opportunity to provide a service to our members to be a part of something that's bigger and better and a bigger picture part of the industry without having to forfeit any of their competitive advantage in the marketplace. So that's kind of where we look at that.
So Chait, with the next topic, I'm going to kind of pick on you a little bit, only because Asphalt Institute represents those liquid suppliers, and there's a lot of extra terms, right? Carbon neutral, net zero, or embodied emissions, or embodied carbons. There's a lot out there, but then my brain, with very little knowledge on some of these topics, I started to say, well, asphalt is carbon, right? Basically, it's a carbon-based product. So how are we going to achieve this? And is this net zero a reasonable goal? Do we really feel like we can achieve this as we move forward with the projections that we're looking at?
Sure. Thank you for that question. So as Richard was mentioning about EPDs, and also Kevin kind of sounded on EPDs. So when we come to net zero, is it just EPDs? So that's the first question, because okay, so net zero, the difference between an EPD is like it looks at a product from within the system. Now, when we talk of net zero, we are talking across systems. We are talking across supply chains. So now AI, liquid asphalt, the question that you asked, we kind of sit at the epicenter of where our upstream producers, for example, the oil and gas industry has their own climate initiative, same net zero goals by 2050. And some of the going more upstream, some of the oil manufacturers itself, like the from oil sands, 95% of them, so they have come to an alliance called Pathways Alliance. We have their own net zero. So where do we fall in their upstream? Is we fall in their downstream, where they see asphalt binder as a carbon offset because it's never burnt, it's never combusted. So there is even a document called Bitumen Beyond Combustion by Alberta Innovates, where they talk about how much savings can you do when they look at that particular supply chain, because asphalt binder is never combusted. Now, also from the downstream now for NAPA, let's say, in NAPA's net zero, we fall under their upstream scope 3 emissions. So so this information spread across systems is currently not being captured in an EPD. So methodologically itself, there are some challenges that we have to figure out as to how, okay, now how do we include this advantage of asphalt never being combusted in an EPD? Is that possible? Or do we should EPD be the sole source, or do we need to look beyond just EPDs when considering environmental informations? So this is my LCACP hat, wearing the LCACP that you asked what it is. So because the topic of EPD is an instrument to report potential environmental impacts. And as you know, SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, they came up with their own requirements for scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions. Now, I know Richard will send me a Chick-fil-A application form when I start talking about scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, but these are a bit different, and not everything is covered in an EPD is what I would like to say. So it's a complex space, and that's why we have subject matter experts in-house at AI. So if you have any questions around how AI is doing, because we are discussing all these things in our sustainability task force. And so it's not a direct answer to your question as to, okay, what are you doing? Just give me 10 things that you're doing. but we are kind of trying to figure out this space and different mechanisms out there to meet different requirements, because the requirements themselves are not uniform. Some of the states are asking us EPDs. Now ICC is asking for scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. So how do we meet these different requirements at the same time have a unified story?
So you're saying it's not easy.
Yeah.
So, and I think we're all in for a long road of trying to learn this stuff and trying to lean on experts like yourself to try and get this figured out. But one thing I do want to bring up, and Richard, I'm going to put you on the spot because I think NAPA, from an aspect of how they are spearheading a lot of these points in the IRA, is there's a lot of money, right? I mean, so that's kind of the big thing that people see up front, is that there's money on the table. So I think the next question that people start asking is, well, how do we get it? And how do we get some? And where do I go?
And if only I had those answers today. No, the reality is, you're right. There's a lot of money that's going to be on the table, and it's going to be with some non-traditional kind of agencies in terms of what the industry has worked with in the past. Like was mentioned earlier, there's $250 million for the EPA to give away, to use as incentives and to help people either develop or enhance standardization or more transparent EPDs as a reporting criteria. That money is in place till 2031. And there's $100 million for EPA to work with the General Services Administration and FHWA on developing kind of low embodied carbon standards or a labeling system for construction materials. So the reality is, yeah, there's money, and like there's even a program in DOE for groups it's $5.8 billion to look at doing things that are going to reduce your emissions at high energy intensive facilities. And it specifically calls out cement and concrete, and we're going to be working with DOE to make sure that people in the asphalt industry are going to hopefully be able to get in and get some of that money as well. The reality is, what I would say that is, get educated on these bills. And I know we'll have numerous sessions coming up. We're going to be planning our September member briefing soon, and I can almost guarantee you that a lot of this bill is going to be a portion of that member briefing and help people see what opportunities are on the table. But it's going to be different. You're going to have to really probably work with your DOTs, because they may not be staffed to look to necessarily write all these grants, or really even sometimes understand how these grants fit in with what they're currently doing. I mean, there's $2 billion for low carbon transportation material grants that's with FHWA. There is money that's going to FEMA. And so what you're going to have to do is really see these as opportunities to partner and work with industry or with agencies. And the great thing is, we've started to see industry really do some of this. When FHWA put out their climate challenge, I think almost half the states sent in applications, and we're seeing where what's going on with that right now and what's going to take place. But that required agencies and industry partnering together to move an idea forward. And a lot of these ideas where there's these monies on the table, and most of it's not through requirements, but it's through incentive-based programs, are going to be really those opportunities. And so I would say, listen to Jay and Joseph and I as we start to dig in deeper into these and have conversations with DOE and EPA and FHWA and GSA and those other organizations. And the great thing is, we're sharpening and strengthening our relationships with many of those groups right now. And get your grant writing pencils ready, because there's going to be lots of electronic information that is needed to tap into those. And it's really going to be an opportunity to have new markets for the industry. But you got to get educated now, so that when that grant is out there, you know how to help and how to apply, and you're not just trying to start figuring it out at that point. Otherwise it may be too late.
Yeah, that very good advice. And so with that idea of getting that help and figuring things out, I'm going to actually ask each one of you to kind of reply to this. And Kevin, I'm going to ask you to, from a couple different hats, from an associated, from a liquid supplier viewpoint and an AMAP representative, the idea of really kind of looking at that term, that help. We deal with AMAP deals with a lot of companies that ends up having specific departments for sustainability, or they have specific grant writers or EPD people. So from a staffing standpoint, do you feel like this is something that we really need to start gearing up, we as an industry gearing up from staffing to start looking for people in the individual company side and as an organization to really kind of represent what is needed here?
I'll start organizationally with AMAP. I think staffing wise, I wouldn't say we're going to hire anybody, but we are focused on forming task forces and committees to help support Asphalt Institute's initiative and what their approach is with this, because the way we see it as AMAP is NAPA being kind of the tip of the spear, where their membership is generally the contract holder with said agency, where Asphalt Institute lies is basically customer. Their Asphalt Institute's members, NAPA's customer, that's the customer relationship. Our members can potentially supply to NAPA's membership, but the bulk of our members supply to Asphalt Institute's membership. So our approach will be to help support the 3 to 5% of the puzzle that AMAP members are in the direction that Asphalt Institute decides to head with the resources that they have to mine or walk the minefield. So that's kind of AMAP. I don't know that we'll add a bunch of stuff, but we will focus on it as a key initiative for us to help the industry. I would say corporately, we've got our ear to the ground. We're, like I said, we're members of all three organizations. I don't know that I would recommend anybody go out and hire a bunch of people until they educate themselves on what they need as a company. And I think that's an individual thing, an individual company thing. But I do know that we're taking it very seriously. We do have people in our tech group that are staying really closely involved to it. And we're watching how things unfold with an eye on supporting what needs to be supported with the right manpower.
Chait, how about you guys?
So thank you for the support, Kevin. And so you guys, as in, yeah, I'm the only person on staff who is working in this arena, but we have both our president and director of engineering. If you talk to them, you won't be able to tell that they are not the experts in sustainability, because they can talk, they talk the terms EPD, PCR rightly. And our aim is, as you said, firstly, tactically, as Kevin mentioned, in this EPD task force, we are trying to cover a wide range of stakeholders, not just the refiners, but also additive manufacturers, as well as modifiers, because the rule book, which is like a product category rule, is like a rule book where we bring in different stakeholders for the same product, like asphalt binder and additives. So we try to create a rule around for different companies who are basically competitors. So our aim is to educate. We have already started the education around sustainability in general through our magazine articles, through different seminars, and specifically on this topic of environmental product declarations and how, let's say, additive manufacturer X, how can they contribute towards our EPD program, and what data will they need to provide, and how can that proprietary nature of the data be kept confidential? Because that's the beauty of this EPD topic itself. It has multiple layers of review. However, what it allows is to keep your specific data proprietary. So because of that whole rigor associated with the process is why $250 million is being given to EPDs and stuff. So we are here to help at Asphalt Institute. So if you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out to me or Mark Buncher, and we'll be accommodative.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so NAPA hired its first director of sustainability or sustainable engineering in around 2014, and has been pretty active in that space since then. That role looks a little differently, and it's got a lot more kind of impetus behind it at the moment. A lot of times at that we were being very forward thinking, and now it's on us, and there's no time to think. It's respond and keep and try to stay ahead. And so I think one of the challenges is this is a space that's just unfamiliar to a lot of the industry. Like I said, when I went through, and shoot, I was in college for almost 9 years, and I never took a sustainability class. And I don't know if I heard the word sustainability in 9 years of my curriculum. I think we're starting to see some of that. But I think one thing that companies can do is you may need to look, if you're looking at someone in this space, think outside the box. Have someone who knows sustainability, but have them hire someone who could be molded to understand industry. One of the things that I struggle with right now, and is I think that there are a lot of people that understand sustainability, and because they think they understand sustainability, they look at our industry like that there's no nuance to it, and that I don't have to understand the industry. It's this mathematical equation, and I can plug and chug through it, and then boom, I've got my answer. When the reality is it's not that simple. And I think having someone who's willing to learn and understand that, yep, you know what, I don't know, but I can start at the ground level and understand now how an asphalt plant works, and these thermodynamic allocation methods of how we're going to separate and do these environmental allocations. And I think it's finding someone who's passionate, but eager to learn and willing to listen. My choral director used to tell us we needed to have a heart of fire, but a mind of ice. And I think that describes the sustainability person that you need. You need passion, but it needs to be controlled and grounded, and understand that there is a reality that these rules and that these policies have to fit with. And I think that's actually been one of the biggest challenges for sustainability, is that there are people that are out spouting off these ideals that don't understand the realities in which they have to work. And then it could actually do the most damage to this movement, or to these good things that we're trying to do, when someone says, oh, that didn't work, and it's done. Because we've all seen that happen before. And so I think even more important than having a sustainability person though on your staff is, and it's only going to start at the top, is it has to become a part of your culture. It is going to impact everything. Your quality impacts sustainability, your efficiency impacts sustainability, how you're operating your equipment, your plant, the material selection, all of that stuff. Every single person on your team impacts the environmental impact of your product. And whether that is through the way it's produced, the way it's constructed, the longevity, some of the things out of your control impact the sustainability, how a DOT maintains it over its life, how it's the design that you're given to work with, all of those things impact it. But I think understanding it and ingraining in your people that you have a part to play, you're a part of this story, and the choices that you make impact not only how this business runs, but really how the industry can be perceived moving forward in this arena, I think empowers your staff to really look at what they're doing and maybe be creative, and maybe think about some new things, and maybe find better ways to do things that'll not just make it more sustainable, but it'll help your company as well.
Yeah, very, very well received and very good points. And I just want to we're rounding out our time, but I want to make a last kind of comment, to anybody that is listening to us, that if you are really kind of in that position where you need to be able to understand this more and participate, which I encourage everyone to start learning. Now, the bottom line of this is just educate yourself, educate your company. And each one of these organizations has information out there to help you move forward and help you at least get contact with the people that can help you if you are looking for something in particular. So we will definitely make sure that all of you, 3 of your contacts are out there and available to anybody that needs them. And I want to thank you guys again for a very hard talk about something that's very new and something very complicated to discuss. But I appreciate each one of your organizations and all the things that you do for our industry. And we hope to see you guys out and about very, very soon.
Tanya, usually I'm the hook, like taking everybody
Oh,
off
sorry.
stage, but you did it. That's great. Thank you guys. You certainly represent the industry and your members very well, and we appreciate your time and letting all of us eavesdrop on your conversation today. So have a great rest of your week. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you guys soon. Good luck this season, Kevin.
Thank you.
Great, if we might need it.
Thank y'all.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.